Episode 198, Treats. Half angered and half amused, Jake gazed at her and asked in a deep voice,
"A doctor from which hospital?"
Serena choked before she quieted down.
"You must have gone to a mental hospital."
Jake gritted his teeth and poked her in the head.
"How can you be so stupid? What are you thinking? Did someone pour water in there while you were a kid?"
She felt sullen and cried even harder. She slapped him on the shoulder and yelled, "You're stupid! You have water in your head!" Utterly amused, he caught her hand and pinned her down again. Despite her face being covered in snot and tears, he kissed her violently. The sudden kiss made her struggle harder. She hit his back in anger. She said she had AIDS. Why was he still kissing her? Why was he still doing this? Didn't he know that it was infectious? She felt angry and sad at the same time. With this excruciating feeling, she could not stop her tears. She did not want to die yet. And what she wanted even less was for him to be infected by her and die with her. However, her struggle was to no avail. He robbed her of air, and then his mouth moved down onto her collarbone. Serena cried, "Jake, did you even listen to me? Are you mental? Don't touch me. Don't kiss me."
"You are the mental one, and a foolish one."
Jake bit on her collarbone, making her yelp. "Ouch!"
"Does it hurt now?"
He did not have the heart to hurt her and kissed her on her lips. Holding her face, he made her look at him.
"How did someone as smart as me fall for a little fool like you?"
Feeling insulted, Serena stared at him. Is he calling her foolish?
"Don't think so?"
Upset and amused, he gritted his teeth and said,
"Then use your brain in the future. Do you think you were raped by that guy with AIDS?"
Serena pursed her lips, almost out of breath from sobbing.
"That guy was indeed drugged. However, when I went over, the drug had not kicked in yet. He only became fanatic after I said I wanted to beat that old woman up."
She stared at him incredulously. She blurted out, "You hit a woman? No, you did not." Jake said nothing for a moment. He gave her a sullen glance and said matter-of-factly,
"Under the circumstance, I was nice not to kill her."
"And then?"
"Then the drug kicked in, and then I had to scare her, so I put her in the same car with that guy Monkey."
Serena stared, her eyes even wider. She wanted to say something but choked. Jake originally wanted to teach her a lesson, but seeing her covered in tears, he did not have the heart to do it after all. In a fret, he got up and wiped her tears away with tissues. Depressed, he asked,
"Do you think I'm that much of a horrible person?"
She bristled and gave him a hard push. He leaned in again and whispered,
"Are you mad?"
She looked away, searching her memory. He laughed.
"You don't know whether or not someone has violated you?"
Choking, she felt sullen and avoided eye contact with him. "When I woke up, I was having a terrible fever and hurting all over," Serena said sullenly. "In addition, we did it for so long, so I was hurting down there as well. How can I tell whether it was you or someone else?" Jake asked.
"How is this my fault?"
"It is your fault!" She growled, staring at him. It seemed that she was about to cry again if he did not agree. He chuckled and quickly said,
"All right, my fault. It is my fault."
What a perfunctory answer. She looked away and couldn't help smiling. He leaned in and gazed at her, whispering,
"You're no longer crying?"
She looked away, avoiding him. He approached her again, trying to get a kiss. She turned her head away again. His next try was still unsuccessful. He stopped trying and kissed her neck instead, making her let out a yelp.
I'm burning here.
Jake grabbed Serena's hand.
I have starved for so long, and it's time for some treats, Mrs. Robinson.
Wait a second. She gave him a push. When I passed out, I felt someone was taking my clothes off. I'm sure that it was not a hallucination. He paused and said calmly,
I think it was probably Charlie Wrong.
Him? Taking off my clothes?
Yes. He saved you from drowning and took off your sweater and jacket. He was injured at that time.
Although she was slightly upset, she knew that it would be much easier to save her without the weight of the drenched clothes. I see. Serena understood. He saved me.
I know.
She quivered under his touch. He kissed her lightly and said in a husky voice,
Sometime in the new year, we will personally go to visit him and thank him for saving you. We will take a trip to Houston.
Okay. Don't touch me.
What about here?
Jake took off his shirt and then hers. Serena felt a bit chilly and put the blanket over him. Shrinking back under the blanket, she was reminded of something else and asked, Where's Michael Cox now? Michael Cox had embezzled his company's money and run away. Mrs. Cox was in the prison. Lila was miserable. And where was Julia Cox?
She's living with my uncle's family.
His skin against hers, he said.
She's good friends with Amelia.
I see.
1 second. We are here together, and you're thinking about someone else now? Huh?
He folded her legs up and teased her. Serena felt incredulous. She pushed him away and asked, Are you sure about what you said? I was not... Jake was leaning forward. He whispered,
You were not, but will be.
She moaned. Hearing his reply, she shoved him away. You're terrible.
Don't you enjoy it? My impeccable sense of humor?
Jake asked, pushing it all the way through. No. Slamming into her harder and harder, he purred into her ear.
You don't mean it.
Be gentle.
I can't.
Ouch! Serena wanted to endure it until it stopped hurting, but she felt more and more pain as Jake drove himself into her faster. She reached out and patted him to get his attention. When she loosened her teeth to speak, she started to groan and shouted intermittently, Jake, my belly hurts.
You want to stop?
Jake held her in his arms. He wanted her even more and said,
Be a good girl.
Serena gritted her teeth. She shouted, It really hurts. You... Stop for a while. He noticed the pained look on her face and knew that something wasn't right, so he stopped. Serena reached down to touch her belly. When she pressed against it, she felt a bump and it hurt. It really hurt. She pushed Jake away. She said seriously, Get out! It really hurts! Jake reached out to touch her. Worried, he asked,
What's wrong? Did you eat something bad?
Serena shook her head, eyes full of tears, and said, I don't know. I just need to take a break.
But I'm so uncomfortable.
Only doing it halfway is more uncomfortable than not doing it at all. She kicked him away, held her belly, and turned around. Jake held himself back, feeling awful. He leaned down to hug her from behind, gently rubbed her stomach, and asked,
It hurts that badly?
Well, Serena began to answer tearfully. The pain had lessened, but she still didn't feel quite right. This had never happened to Serena before, and she didn't want to finish. She felt awkward and uncomfortable with Jake waiting for her.
Get dressed. We're going to the hospital.
No, I just want to lie down, she said.
Then, do you feel like finishing?
No. Jake felt wronged. He leaned against her, rubbed her arms, and said,
Mrs. Robinson, your husband is very uncomfortable.
She closed her eyes and turned her head away from him. Serena refused and said ruthlessly, No and no! Go take a shower! Jake obediently stood up and stormed into the bathroom. Hearing the sound of the water, Serena suddenly felt guilty. He shouldn't have to take a cold shower, should he? The pain in her abdomen had reduced to a small ache, and she wanted to continue, but it was hurting. What should I do? She mumbled under her breath. She felt annoyed. She put on his discarded shirt and went to knock on the bathroom door. Mr. Robinson? She said. There was no response. As she lowered her hand, the bathroom door swung open, and a big hand closed around her wrist. Serena shouted in surprise as she was pulled into the hot, steamy bathroom. Jake pressed her against the wall and was inching towards her with eagerness. She whispered as she felt him moving against her. Serena was trying to cooperate as much as possible, but her belly stung with new pain. It hurts, she said with a finality. Annoyed, he stopped again.
Then why did you come in here? What is wrong?
I don't know. It just hurts. Serena hung on to him, letting him support her body.
Let's go to the hospital.
His forehead was close to hers, and he whispered in her ear,
I can't bear to see you like this.
As he patiently helped Serena get dressed, Jake felt that all the grievances he had suffered in his life were nothing compared to this.